broker disputes, you can't file on your own. You need your broker's permission. So there's something, if you Google it, it's called arbitration guidelines. If you think you have a commission issue related to procuring cause, you might want to look at that, because it's what the hearing panels are educated on to listen to when they're hearing the testimony of the parties. And that will help them make a decision. And you have a right to that. It's available online on NAR, on our website, probably hundreds of other websites that are realtor associations. Mandatory arbitration is typical of a procuring cause dispute. That means two brokers who belong to the same MLS have a dispute and they can't resolve it on their own, so they want to come to us to work that out. When I said you need broker's permission, disputes are typically between the agents, but the agents need their broker to come in. And then we can have a mandatory dispute when there's a dispute between a realtor and a client arising out of an agency relationship. Typically, it's the client complaining that the realtor promised them something and didn't deliver it, something tangible. I like to use the example of an appliance that was there when they signed the offer, but it wasn't there when they took possession, and the realtor says, oh, I'll throw it in, and they don't. The public can file for arbitration as long as they agree to our process and outcome. Now we have voluntary arbitration, and by the way, you don't know these things until it goes through our grievance committee, which is which. In-house disputes. If brokers find that they can't get their two agents to agree on something, and it's a commission dispute for the same commission, for instance, both are saying they convinced the buyer to purchase, they can say that that has to be disputed through our process. If there's a dispute with a non-broker, a non-realtor broker, it's voluntary. If there's a dispute between a realtor and a customer, if the realtor created the relationship between a customer and a client, the only way I can think to describe that is if the realtor helped the buyer and the seller to agree to something and it doesn't pan out, and they were they scribed the terms of the agreement, that would be voluntary. So if we get a voluntary arbitration, it's up to staff to try to convince the non-member to participate. And the biggest win is that the realtor community who deals with real estate will be making the decision. This way. Oops. So here are some myths that prevent people from filing requests to arbitrate. They're thinking that a realtor is obligated to ask the buyer if they're working with another agent. Agency has nothing to do with procuring cause. The realtor who introduced the showing of the property won't continue to work with the buyer if the buyer is working with another agent. That shouldn't happen either. If you're the listing agent holding an open house and someone walks in, you have an obligation to your seller to introduce somebody to the property. And if that person has you write the contract, there's an issue that you have to take to your broker. Yes?
So this is interesting, right? Because I got 2 texts over the weekend that a buyer's agent was out of town and wanted me to open up a vacant house for a rental, right? Very odd change. So I text back and say, well, do you have a partner? Did you leave your business in somebody's hands? Like, you know, because I'm in the middle of stuff too, right? So what would be the scenario of that? I mean, this is a cooperating agent and working with an agent that wants me to open a house for them. Not an open house, but wants me to physically drive 20, 25 minutes, open the house, show it to their buyer, lock the house back up, and then turn them back away.
It's very interesting because I can't tell you what the outcome would be other than there is a basis for a dispute. So one of the things is, you know, commissions or rights to commissions need to be communicated before the offer is even submitted. I think that's Article 3. And so you need to get that out of the way. You know, if I open the door, then I want, you know, I want this. Otherwise, can we make another appointment, would be what I would say.
Okay, just want to throw it out there, but it's fascinating.
Thank you. Is item number 1 a standalone proposition, or should there be an and between 1 and 2? Must we ask if they're working with an agent, or do we not have to ask?
Article 16, let's see, there's some terminology for Article 16.
Oh, you got the book.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find the
Well,
reference.
while you do that, Dave, I'll answer in a different way. So I will tell you from my perspective, when I argue a case on either side, it's really helpful that you ask. Because if you ask the question and the buyers, like Carol said, buyers put us in bad situations. It's not necessarily the realtors that put each other. If you're doing an open house and you ask that question and that buyer says no, then you've done your job and you have no reason to believe there is. If the buyer says yes, that takes on a whole series of issues, because maybe then you've been put on notice. And so Carol says it's right, it's not the end all. I will just tell you, everyone I've been through, there's so many different twists and turns on procuring costs. It's just another way we can either defend our position or be aggressive on our position. So I think it helps a lot.
That's why I
Because
said no.
here's what happens. Here's what happens. The buyer didn't tell me they were working with an agent. Well, they don't know. But we're the professionals, we're the licensee, we're the ones that should be asking them the question, so at least we know what direction we're going to be working in. So I think it helps.
But Article 16 says that you're supposed to determine if someone is in an exclusive relationship with another realtor for the same type of services. But again, if you're holding the open house, and let's say it's for your client or a client for, you know, one of your co-licensees, it's a different position. So you're still entitled to show the property, and you're still entitled to file for procuring cause. Basically, just because you wrote the, number 3 is basically just because you wrote the contract doesn't mean you're entitled to the position, to the commission. Of late, I can say I have gotten, this year, complaints are off the scales, including arbitrations, and a lot of them are that the agent that wrote the contract never visited the property. So the buyer always had something in the back of their head they were going to do. A buyer choosing a realtor to represent him means that the realtor is entitled to the commission. That's not true either. Buyers changing realtors for a lower price, that doesn't work for procuring cause. An exclusive employment broker agreement does not have any effect on procuring cause. What it has an effect on is your ability to go against that buyer for stepping out of bounds. And let's see, a realtor must be responsible for the buyer becoming ready, willing, and able to be the procuring cause. That isn't it either. So these are myths, they're not the truth. Procuring cause is property specific. It only pertains to one property. So that's what number 1 is saying. Any information about other prior relationships is irrelevant. So if 10 years ago you sold this person a property, it doesn't relate to the new issue for procuring cause. Showing other properties is irrelevant. But I will tell you, the hearing panel does consider if you showed other properties that maybe you were working with this person for a long time. Another important consideration you probably won't find in writing anywhere is that procuring cause is often determined at the time of the introduction, not when the offer is written. So here are some of the things a hearing panel is going to look at. They're going to consider that agency relationships aren't important. They don't entitle compensation. However, a lack of a relationship may be a determining factor, and I gave an example of somebody who wrote the contract and never visited the property. The lack of relationship to the listing might change the hearing panel's thought. They will look and consider agreements. Was the agreement exclusive? Is it in writing? Was it in effect? And what were the conditions of the agreements? Compensation. Was an offer of compensation made? How was it communicated, and what were the conditions of the agreement met? I will say, and I'm sure you all have had instances where you've had to negotiate a part of the commission to help the transaction close, which is generally after an offer is written. That information should be communicated to your broker so that your broker is aware in case anything happens, but it needs to be put in writing to protect yourself. So the hearing panel is considering who's the listing broker, who's the cooperating broker. An important thing, was a broker also a principal in the transaction? In other words, were you working with your own transaction? How did that transaction funnel through the brokerage? Some brokers say that they don't have to, some say they do. That's important for a hearing panel. And was there a prior relationship between the purchaser and the broker? They'll consider that. Introduction. Offer doesn't have to be written. They want to know who introduced the person to the property. Was it the first introduction that convinced the buyer to purchase? Was there an introduction merely a mention? In other words, in today's world, somebody sends an MLS, I don't know what they're called, but you constantly send someone the MLS properties that meet your client's information. Is that merely the mention that you're entitled to procuring cars? You got to be able to substantiate that. Was it that introduction instrumental in creating the desire to purchase? And another thing that happens, did the buyer find the property on his own? In other words, did they go to Zillow or something else and find the property and tell you they want to look at it? Yes?
I have a question. I'm asking you now because your response may fit into here. In your introductory remarks, you said that many of these disputes are the result of a buyer who knows how to manipulate the system. Can you elaborate on that comment?
They know how to work the system. If the first person that's showing them the property isn't giving them the feeling of knowledge to the extent that they're capable of knowing, and I'm going to think of an investor. Their desire is to see the property. They call the listing agent. They want to open the house. They want to see the property. They decide, this person doesn't fit my needs. I'm going to go to somebody else. They know how to work it so that they get to see the property, and you give them all the information as the listing broker because you have all the information, and then they want somebody else to write it because that other person's going to somehow compensate them, or they trust them, or whatever the basis for that would be, but they choose who writes the contract, but they don't choose who's entitled to the commission. Does that make sense?
Well, it does make sense, but I'm not sure how that really helps much. Under that scenario that you just related, the decision to buy the house, which is critical, was made while the hypothetical buyer was talking to the listing agent, all right? So if the decision to buy the house is made under those circumstances, creating an unbroken chain of events that leads to a successful closing of the property, the listing agent's entitled to the commission regardless of who writes up the papers. So how can the buyer manipulate the system?
Because not everybody goes through arbitration. Because that other person who wrote the contract is gonna have their position to bring forward, but you never know what it is till they bring it forward.
You can say he convinced me to buy the house.
Yes, he could say, I
Done
sent
deal.
him MLS printouts, we were working together for 5 years, I knew he wanted this neighborhood, blah, 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 blah. And being the state that we are, that we have a lot of people that are, you know, I don't wanna say snowbirds, but investors and people that come in, you know, this is their second home community, a lot of things happen.
Brian, you know what happens a lot, I hear, from my perspective, in your scenario? A buyer will go to Carol, who's the listing agent, does the open house, and ask Carol for all the information. And then when they get it, they're gonna go to their brother-in-law, who's their realtor, and say, you know, what's the word, what's the 2 words, abandonment or estrangement. I didn't get the feeling that she knew what she was doing. She didn't really answer my question. She said something that was kind of off color, I was insulted. I would never work with Carol. So I'm telling you, there's ways if they know what they're doing, there's ways they're gonna manipulate the system.
Well, the ultimate manipulation, and is very unfortunate, is that all the person has to do is to lie as to when they made the decision to buy the house. And that's Joe's point. I mean, it's,
That's why you don't wanna arbitrate, you want to mediate. Because in an arbitration, you have to prove your case, in a mediation, you do not have to prove your case. The discussion is, we're here, nobody wants to be there, and how do we resolve it so that we can both go on and do our work?
well, but in either situation, what you want is truth testimony. My point is that if the ultimate witness is gonna make the decision as to when they decided to buy the house, and which agent is responsible for that decision, that's the current cause. If the person lies about that, then, I mean, there's no case. There's nothing to produce. So maybe in your procedures, what you should do is to put people under oath.
The members are under oath, not the
arbitration,
public. The public is not a
Witnesses
part.
under oath?
In arbitration, you are. Do you guys know what the difference is? Let's go back a little bit. In mediation, it's a very informal process, right? There's gonna be you and me and the other person, their broker, and a mediator. The mediator is just one of our peers, they're trained to do this. Their sole objective is to find a settlement.
Yeah.
You're asking for $20,000, what are you gonna offer me? I'm offering you nothing because you didn't do anything. So now the difference is $20,000. All the mediator's trying to do is everybody tell the story, let's have a conversation. Is there a settlement in this room? Is it 5,000? Is it 10,000? Is it something? That mediation could last 5 minutes, could last 5 hours. At some point, if the mediator feels there is no compromise, there is no settlement, then you go to arbitration. That's a much more formal process. Everybody is sworn in. There's a stenographer. There's a 5-member panel. It's very formal. That is either you win it all or you lose it all. When the final decision is made, they are not going to say, Brian, we think you were 80% right, therefore you're getting 80% of the commission. Either you win it all or you lose it all, and that's the difference. So I'm sorry, but here's what I think is really unfair, and those who I've defended. When we think we have an open shut, a case that is just so right, and we defend it, and it's a $30,000 commission, here's the problem where I think the process is unfair. The guy that's going after us, he has to put up $500.
Correct.
Right? Then we, defending it, have to put up $500. The prevailing party gets their money back. So if you're a gambler, the guy's putting up, Helene Cass is not here, is she? We had one of my first cases. This guy put up $500 to win $30,000. I take that bet all day long. And if they lost, it was just $500. But if they won, they got $30,000.
Yeah.
That's the process.
The other part of arbitration and mediation is you leave mediation knowing the outcome that day. Arbitration, you do not. And you don't get an explanation why the panel decided the way they did. If I took a poll of all the brokers who have participated in arbitration, they will tell you the cases that were the slam dunk, they were gonna win, they lost. The cases that they won, they didn't think they had, a chance and blah, blah, blah to win. So you really are putting it in somebody else's hands to decide if you go to arbitration. You no longer decide, you don't get a reason why they made their decision. You get a piece of paper saying you prevail or you don't prevail.
Carol, question, and Sandy, this goes to you too, because I was at 12 years on professional standards in my former board. We hear arbitration cases, and we heard this exact same case that you're talking about. And split awards was not uncommon. So I don't believe that.
We don't split. We've been trained by NAR. It is the absolute last possible decision to make. And an example of a split, husband went to visit the property, broker A, because he was in town. Wife came behind the husband and he wasn't available and saw it with broker B. And the husband and wife together decided to purchase the property, but they saw two different brokers. So how often is that scenario going to happen? That's an example they give. That's not the example you see 99.9% of the time. My job, when somebody calls and says they have a commission dispute, just so you guys know, is talk to your broker, consider mediation. It is, no matter what you think, mediation is a conversation, and you'll get things out of the conversation that maybe I didn't do something right, or whew, I skipped that beat and now I'm never going to do that again. And everybody shakes hands and hopes to get another transaction to make out the difference. When you go to arbitration, you're fighting, and you're fighting for your position and hoping that the people who are going to make a decision find in your favor. I've been doing this for 15 years. I'm not a realtor. I'm a person that sits in the hearing rooms, and I've this year have come to the conclusion that just like I'm speaking right now, not everybody is catching everything I say, but I'm saying one set of statements, you know, and so when you go to a hearing, although you are going to profess that you are this and you did all the right things and your client, you know, you convinced the person to buy, the people who are making the decision all hear something differently. And that's why we go into, you don't get a decision right away after a hearing, because they have to go and deliberate on why they're going to come up with that decision. Yes?
How, does the buyer have any say in any of this in a commission dispute? I had one years ago where, you know, I showed this years to this one client and then showed him a house, a particular house. They got mad because the other house they wanted went away. They ended up buying a house that I showed them. Their agent, that listing agent, knew they were my client. But I was afraid because this buyer was very slimy. And all they had to do was say, oh no, Terry didn't do this, this was our agent. And so I didn't know if the buyer has any say in it. Is the buyer a witness? Can the buyer say, oh no, she didn't?
The buyer can be a witness, and that you have to go over with your broker, because witnesses can be cross-examined. And if you're saying that your buyer was slimy, if they're cross-examined, they may say something that's not in support of your position.
Well, they bought a $6 million house, and because of, they went right to the listing agent, the seller didn't have to pay the 6%, they only had to pay 3%, and that's the only way they got the deal done. So, you know, he was the CFO of a huge company, so obviously he was very astute.
Educated buyer.
Yeah.
So the best thing I know to tell you is when the issues arise, who was it? Gladwell, I think his name is, talks about your sixth sense is your gut. What's your gut feeling? If your gut feeling is something here isn't matching up, start taking copious notes, look for those arbitration guidelines, and mark things up. So that's what's really important, to follow your intuition and talk to your broker. A lot of times brokers can work things out before it ever goes to a hearing.
What if you show a house to somebody after you've been showing and showing, I'm asking this for a friend, but you're showing and showing and showing for a year, and you show them this house, you write an offer on it, it doesn't come together, and then all of a sudden they go directly to the seller seller doesn't use their agent, they don't use their buyer agent, they do the deal, but you had an offer that you had written and you showed them that house. So there's no longer agents involved in the transaction. Can you do this? Can you go to mediation if there's no agents
Who are you gonna
involved?
mediate with? 'Cause this
That's
is-
what I mean.
This is a member dispute.
So there's no way to do anything about that.
Well, you have to identify who do you have the issue with. And then and once you identify that, then what are your options?
So
Yeah.
in that situation, you would have to litigate. You'd have to take the board, no ADR, you'd have to hire a real estate attorney and go after them personally.
And that's what I thought, so I
Yeah.
dropped it. but-
So sometimes, you know, the
My
board,
friend dropped
Sandy,
it.
you know, this is fascinating, you know, sometimes I'm sitting down in an agent in our office and they'll say, should I run out and get independent legal advice? And sometimes I say, yeah.
For arbitrations, you're entitled to have an attorney. I tell people, some people write better, some people speak better. You have both opportunities at an arbitration hearing, but the attorney's job is to represent your interests with the best efforts they can. I have family who's attorneys, and I would say, oh my God, every time I go to a hearing and there's an attorney, I can add 3 more hours.
Right.
And they said, the job of the attorney is to get the answer to the question. And so if somebody is not answering the question that they're trying to get the answer for, they're gonna try to reformat that 900 times. The good thing that happens in a hearing is the chairperson says, enough, you know, we've gotta move on. But I'm not gonna be able to go through everything here. I just wanna tell you, if you have suspicions, talk to your broker, Sandy. I will help guide everyone through the process. It's not what anybody wants to do, but it's here for you. And we try to do it in as professional a manner so that people can get through this portion of the business that you don't want to be with.
What's the timeline?
Thank you. 180 days from close of escrow or from when you could have reasonably known the transaction closed. So somebody says, well, what do you mean by reasonably? You could be at a holiday party and somebody said, oh, you know, those people you brought to the house, they bought it. Ah. Well, nowadays, you can know sooner if you follow the property or you follow the buyer, you know, follow the properties that you showed them that they showed interest in. You have the ability to look it up, and a lot of people do that now. That's part of their.
Can I ask one more?
Okay.
It's my birthday.
It's your birthday.
If you have a, let's say, we'll use the same scenario that keeps coming up. Listing agent, buyer goes direct, thinks they're gonna get a smoking deal or save on commission, but they were working with another agent, now they have a change of heart. I don't wanna work with that person, we all know they're just trying to save a buck. But if that was me in that situation and I was a listing agent, I would reach out to the buyer's agent, explain what's going on. Hey, let's try to work something together. Maybe I can give you a referral fee, like something to keep everybody abreast of what's going on. Let's say the buyer's agent agrees and says, okay, fine, you go ahead, handle the deal, pay me a referral fee. Everybody walks away happy, it closes. By that agent signing that referral fee and getting compensated, does that close that door for them to be able to open any kind of arbitration, like anything else additionally?
So I'm not an attorney, and I can't interpret agreements, but I can say it's like a contract. You sign an agreement, there's a promise, and to break that promise and goes to something else is a whole nother ball of wax, which is why you want to talk to your broker first.
Yeah, we would fight that every day.
Yeah.
There's an applied agreement.
Yeah.
I just want to make a comment about an attorney. So we had a case one time with somebody, we went after somebody else and they hired an attorney. It was a bad idea because, you remember, the panel is just us. That's all it is. You know, the panel have been in our situations. And this attorney was speaking, Brian, in all respect, he was speaking legalese, not real estate-ese. And this guy was just above the pack. There was no, they just didn't get it. They just didn't understand what he was saying. And like Carol said, he was asking the same question 9 different ways. They were getting frustrated. and you just stick to the facts and you talk as a realtor, they get it. Bringing an attorney is not always a good idea. It's just not.
So, just to know, the people that make the decision have to be trained every year. We have some stellar people who have been on the committee for a very long time. A lot of them join our committee because they get stuck in a position where they have to deal with something like this, or they've been a broker, and this is the best recipe to participate in professional standards for risk reduction. Because you see the issues that are out there. So I can give you a synopsis and tell you that we have a lot of arbitrations right now, and the majority of them are resolved in mediation. Again, because they don't put themselves in this position. So that speaks a lot for the process. Arbitration is here when it just does, mediation just doesn't work, and that happens too. Help you throughout the way, okay? And I don't want to take up any more of your time because you've got a lot of stuff to do, and thank you very much, and please take the Code of Ethics class.
Thank you very much.
Well, it is your turn.
This is kind of important, just if you have to. Okay. So I'm gonna, Peggy,
Yeah.
okay, perfect example. Peggy was brought up on an ethics charge by a
friend,
customer.
really.
Okay? No, but, and rewind had nothing to do with what Peggy did wrong. But ethics has nothing to do with money. Procuring cars has to do with money between agents. Ethics has nothing to do with this. So this lady was going after Peggy for an ethics violation, whatever it was, and wanted money. So we're sitting there in this mediation, and when we told this lady, you have to understand, if the principal wins and they find Peggy guilty or wrongdoing or in violation of code of ethics, Peggy may get fined a letter, a slap on the wrist, $500, $5,000, maybe she loses her license at the ultimate, right? But the person that made the complaint gets nothing. And their face just dropped. Dropped. They didn't realize it. Ethics has nothing to do with money. Okay? Don Matheson, we went to an ethics case, we made a code of ethics violation with somebody. This is where they had their attorney. And Don didn't do it for money. Don got nothing out of it. But he felt that he was violated and he was wronged and so on, and he made so ethics has nothing to do with money to you, but you can get fined if you're fined in violation of an ethics violation. But the prevailing party does not get money. It's a big distinction between an ethics violation and a procuring cause issue. The other thing that you mentioned, you guys have heard me say this for years, representation does not constitute compensation. Right? What has nothing to do, well, because we ask people, well, you're going after procuring cars, did you have a buyer-broker agreement? Has nothing to do with it. Zero to do with procuring cars. Zero. So keep that in mind too. And Davis, again, I'll say the same thing. When you ask those questions, it just makes it look like we at least know what road now to take. Because I can use that for us or against us in an arbitration or a mediation. So, it's not a fun process. It's a little stressful. You know, but when you're fighting your case, and if you feel we've opened this long enough, if you feel that you've been wronged or something was not right, like you said, your sixth sense, start writing notes. Timelines and dates are priceless. They are just priceless. On this date, I met Carol Ridley, the open house. I asked if she was working agent. She said no. On this date, I showed Carol 3 more houses. On this date, I did this. Boy, that is just invaluable when you're presenting your case, because the time 180 days after it closes or within that time frame, you've done so many other deals, your mind is elsewhere, you've already forgotten, little sore spot in your mind. And then when you try to go back and recreate what happened, it's really hard. And the time you file arbitration, the time you get your letters, to the time, watch this, here's what Carol did talk about. Where's Robin? Are you here today, Robin?
No, she's not, but I can speak on her behalf.
So we got one with Dell and Robin, and there's another person that's procuring cars, just trying to find dates. This has been going on since probably 60 days ago when they filed. Now the next part of the process is we have to wait for dates. So Carol's going to send out an email to all the parties, the buyer, the seller, the realtors, the brokers, trying to find one mutual date and time that everybody can meet.
Well, and this is fascinating. We found out that the guy just happened to be working with 2 agents, never said who to either one of us. and we were both writing offers within a 10-day period.
Yeah, so now we have to find out date.
On the same
Give
guy.
us the 60 days, you think we're
No,
gonna find
not
a
always
date
on the same
anytime
house.
soon? So our meeting, our arbitration or mediation probably won't come until January. I don't think it's coming over the holiday time. Try to find one date for 2 or 3 hours that 5 different people are available. And this happened back in, the deal closed in May, I think it was. It happened in March, file was started in May, this is 6 months later. So you gotta just start writing notes.
We
and
ran out of the
timelines.
180 days.
Yeah. So, this year's, the point is you're gonna forget a lot of small details. A lot of small details. So if you feel you've got an issue, talk to me, we'll chat about it. But I'm gonna tell you, just keep a timeline going.
Right, but let me throw this in. If we would have known that the guy, if the buyer would have confessed and said, hey, you know what, I've been working with both of you. The first thing I would have done if I'd have known that is called the guy and said, hey, let's work this together. You know, you and I had a meeting the other day for 3 minutes and we're done, right? So when you find out that there's a potential issue, do not, the worst thing you can do, in my opinion, is get to this phase. Don't sweep it under the rug. Call the other guy that you're in, future issues with, or gal, and work it out. I mean, it's better to pay 25% now than go through 5 nights of no sleep and potentially losing everything.
Yep.
Give up a referral fee, buy him a tank of gas, whatever it takes, right?
Linda, go ahead.
I've gone through this, and I did it with Sheila when she was here. And one of the biggest things that I think I was able to win was the fact that I had documented everything in email. I didn't just write it down. All conversations with my client, okay, so this is what we're doing. Everything was documented. I had to stack guys like this of paperwork. And documentation is probably the most important thing when you're going through this process. I know we do a lot of texting and messaging, but if you put in an email and you have hard copies of all that, it really will help you out.
I have to say the second thing that's important, and I did go through something like this, is having Sandy in your corner and talking to him all the time. He was my best friend from November to March.
He's no longer your best friend?
No, he still is. But, it was very, I've been in the business now 23 years and, I've moved around and I always, people would say, well, it's really important to have a really good broker. And you go, oh yeah, whatever. But when you really need the broker there, that's, it's kind of like insurance. You don't, when you really need it, that's when you see the value. And that was very, very valuable.
Somebody said something earlier I wanted to comment on. Somebody shows a house, that agent doesn't own that house for procuring cars forever and ever and ever. It doesn't work that way. We've had a few cases we had to defend. I showed my buyer that house 16 months ago, and you don't own the house. Every scenario is just so different. And Carol's been through this 1,001 times. I bet you've heard the same exact cases being held with completely different answers and different results, because the panel they're just us. It's just us. And and the panel, they've been through what we're going through. They're experienced agents, they're not newbies. So they've been through what we're going through. They've been through the frustration, the hardship, the anxiety, all of that. And depending on how they feel that day. And they're doing their best. I have a great deal of respect for them to go through this process. But they may have had an incident where they feel it's like being our juror. We're all prejudiced in some manner. We all have our beliefs, so it comes into play. So, did you have your hand up, Brian? Did you? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
You made a comment about buyer-broker agreement is not a means to procuring costs.
Thank you.
So in a world where some love them using that agreement, some don't use it at all, and also where sometimes buyers are liars, not always. What is your position on the buyer-broker clause?
Right. So a buyer-broker agreement is exactly for a buyer as a listing agreement is for a seller. That's all it is. It's just an employment agreement, right? So if I have a buyer-broker with somebody and they violated, what's the word you use? They broke their promise, they violated that agreement, and they bought a house without me, I have a choice to make. I have a right to go after them for commission because they signed an agreement with me stating that they will pay me. The question that I'll ask you, if that case happens, do you want to go after that person for commission? We'll fight it every day of the week, because you have a right to do that. The question is, do you really want to go that route? So a buyer-broker agreement for a buyer is the same as an ER to a seller. It's exactly the same thing. You just have to make that decision if something you're going to go after. How about this one? We never talk
Wait,
about.
let me just, meaning you'd have to litigate. You have to go after them personally. You wouldn't be involved in anything like that because it's really not a commission dispute.
A buyer-broker agreement would be subject to our mediation, but we can't force the buyer to participate. We can just sell them the benefits of coming through us, but if you understand, rarely do they want to do it because they're saying, oh, you know, you're the realtors, you're not going to
Right.
support me.
See, the structure falls apart.
And then-
Meaning Sandy and I and the firm and everything, buyer's agents are all part of a board, so the structure falls apart when you take a consumer outside the board. We've all agreed to that foundation.
So there's two issues, right? Watch this. So let's say we fight the case, we arbitrate, and they agree that they violate the agreement. Okay, fine, I owe you X. Now you gotta go collect.
Right.
Right? Now you gotta go collect, and there's no governing body that's gonna make them collect. The only thing you can do, like Dale said, is to go through legal litigation. We never talk about this scenario.
Wait, let's back up. Like if we lose a procuring cause case, Sandy has to pay it or we lose board privileges. See the difference? It's fundamentally.
Yeah, we're a governing body. We're governed by association.
Right.
So watch this. Here's the scenario we never talk about. I have an ER with somebody. They sold the house on their own to their best friend, and they're not paying me commission. Well, you have to, right? Because we have an ER. It's the same, but that very rarely happens. But it's the same exact scenario. It's just that's all a buyer broker reads as an employment agreement.
It happens.
Yeah.
And then I just want to send out a plug. If anybody's interested in joining Professional Standards, which means you sit on the hearing panels, you get trained, contact me as soon as possible because we're making out the list now. We have annual training usually in February of every month. And we can, usually your first hearing is as an alternate where you don't make a decision, but you get a feeling of how the process works. For some of you who have been part of a dispute, you don't know the back end, which is the most important end of how they make their decisions. So I'm not a realtor, but I sit there in awe because of how people's minds think, and these are your peers. They're thinking of everything. And I don't know it all, so nobody wants my decisions. But thank you very much. You have a great group here, and thank you for turning out like you did.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
So if you need Carol's information, please come to me or Sandy, and we have that information for you. So you're more than welcome to have it at any time. So this is where we say thank you to all of our vendors. They're the ones that help make a lot of this happen for us every single month. So we go over here to Mary. You're going to talk? Otherwise, no, we're going to move on now.
I thought you were just saying something. Good morning, Mary Boyens, Secretary of National Warranty. First of all, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Second of all, I'm a captain at a kennel here in Scottsdale. If any of you want to ring the bell, we do 2-hour shifts. Please let me know. I still have quite a few shifts left to fill. Thank you.
Where's your bell?
It's at the corner of Via Linda and Frank Lloyd Wright, the Walgreens.
Does anybody ring the bell before?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, cool.
Good morning, everyone. Sharon Wolf-Furman, AJF Engineering and Inspections. Always great to see you. And I, too, want to express my gratitude to all of you for all the business this year and want to wish you all a wonderful Thanksgiving. And for those of you who know Allie, she, too, volunteered to be AJF, to be a captain for the Bell. And we have 2 Wednesdays that we're working to fill coming up starting next week at the Bashes at Thompson Peak and whatever. So if you're interested in those times, let us know. So thanks. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Jill Wright with Chicago Title. For those of you that don't know Allie.
Allie Flack, Chicago Title.
So I'm just going to tag on to what Sharon said. It's the season of being thankful, so we're thankful for all of you guys as well. We are going to start a social series at your office once a month. The first one is going to be December 11th at 1 o'clock, just before the Jumpstart, I believe it is. So we're gonna kind of drill down. The first one's gonna be an audit. So we're just gonna kind of go through all of your social media stuff and kind of drill down and figure out, you know, what should and should not be done, so.
No, I think it's not just social. We're gonna look at all of your digital online platforms and really make sure that your branding, your names, your message that you're putting out to the world is across the board the same, so that way when people find you everywhere you are, it's sending the same message to really get people back in the door, to know exactly who you are and what you're doing. And then we'll go from there to really expand on that for the rest of the year. Thank
Tiffany.
you.
Hi, I'm Tiffany with CNN Mortgage, and just a couple interesting things that have come across my desk lately. On the Airbnb that somebody mentioned earlier, we used to have a 1-year history of a lease agreement for 1 year. Now we can use Airbnb as far as lease agreements. So it doesn't have to be 1 year anymore. And that literally just changed a couple weeks ago. And that's with Freddie Mac, not Fannie Mae yet. So that was interesting. And then the other thing is there's a lot of rehab loans going on right now. And it's kind of coming across my desk. You can do minimum down, 3% down, do your rehab. So let's say your purchase price is $300,000, you have $40,000 in rehab that you add to it, $340,000 purchase price, 3% down is all you need. It's an awesome program. And what just came out with it is you can do sweat equity. So I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, you used to be able to do sweat equity. Haven't been able to do it for years and years. Now it's back. So that 3% down, part of that, you can work with the general contractor, do a little legwork, and it goes towards down payment. Super cool stuff coming out. So call me if you need anything. Thank you.
Dan.
I'm Deanne with Azing Realty Media. We have a lot of going on right now. We are rolling out a video program. So this is our drone video, interior video, plus you get 5 drone stills for $299. So it's a huge discount considering our competitors in the market. We're also blowing out Matterport. So the market value, going rate for a Matterport is 10 cents a square foot. For a 2,000 square foot house, that's $200. Azing's doing it for $100. So that's 50% off. That's 5 cents a square foot. It's not going to last forever. So get in there, give it a try. This is a really good product, especially if it's a second home area like Carefree Cape Creek, where you have out-of-state buyers. It's great for people to look at, to actually take a virtual walk through the home. If you haven't seen it, you've got to see it. It's really amazing. And thanks so much for your support. You guys are my #1 broker, and I really appreciate all of you.
Ben.
Ben Tobias, Fairway Mortgage. Thank you for all that we've worked with this year. Hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving. We've talked about last month and obviously this month, planning ahead for 2019. We've been sitting down with a lot of agents, just business planning, trying to see ways that we can help you grow your business. We'd love to continually do so with you guys, so please keep us in mind. We'll continue to reach out to you guys to set up appointments if you guys are willing to sit down with us and talk about things that you want to do for 2019. Thank you.
Julie. Sorry, Ben.
Julia Walker, Fairway Mortgage as well. I wanted to let you guys know our home scouting app that we've recently upgraded. A lot of you guys are using it. It gives your clients direct access to the MLS. It keeps them off of Zillow, where when they're doing a live search, they're only seeing your face. It allows you to see all the searches that they're saving as their favorites. And what we have found that it benefits you guys most is the client that's not ready to buy right now, ready to buy in 3 or 6 months, and maybe you stop following up with them, and then all of a sudden you start seeing their activity pick up, and it gives you an opportunity to re-engage with them and not lose them to Zillow, because they're looking at the app that gives them direct access, and you can see all the activity that they're doing. So come over and talk to me if you'd like. It's a free app to you, and it's very, very easy to share with your clients.
Thank you. All right, we have a new vendor with us. It's Dennis Nobley with Horizon Inspection Services. So he is, of course, by the name, it's an inspector. So Dennis is one of our new vendors.
So hi, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to join your group, and looking forward to meeting all of you. Please take the time to call me. Let's talk about how I do inspections. This is Bev Mayer. She's a marketing director for me and our company. New inspector, that's kind of scary, right? That's the scariest time in the process for most of you probably is, oh my gosh, we got to go through the inspection, right? What's going to happen? So my whole business is built on providing a good inspection experience for your clients and for you. And that doesn't mean it has to be a good inspection. I mean, I've walked away from inspections that are just, I mean, holy moly, lots of stuff there, but it's a good experience for your clients and you. I mean, you understand when we walk away what's going on here, and that's the whole reason you hired me. So that's the whole deal. So please introduce yourself to me. Come and get a card. Call me. Let's talk about. I'll send you a sample report so you can look and see how what it looks like. But the whole idea is to make it streamlined, not scary. I know how to communicate with people, and that is so important, isn't it? You've all seen inspectors that don't know how to communicate, and that's really the biggest part of it. So anyway, people do business with other people they know, they like, and they trust. You don't know me, so I'm going to be around. Hopefully we'll get to know each other. You'll find out that you will like me. And you will. I'm a nice guy. I've done inspections for Dell before. That's going to carry a lot of weight for a little while because you don't know me. So, have you done any inspections for anyone? Just yesterday I was talking to someone in your group. I've done inspections for Dell before. Okay. But anyway, and you'll find out that you can trust me. So it'll take time. But listen, I'm very grateful to be here with you. Thank you.
So we're very lucky to have two great companies that are inspectors. So please use our vendors. I mean, there's a lot of them out there, but we go through and we vet everybody. So we have great inspectors on both sides. So just to kind of let everybody know. All right, go ahead.
Tara
Thanks,
Carter,
Tara.
Old Republic Home Warranty. Happy Thanksgiving. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart how much I appreciate each and every one of you. You're not told that often enough. You touch my life. You touch your lenders' lives, your title company's life, our contractors' lives, and I just want to say thank you. So enjoy your Thanksgiving, and let's have a killer 2019.
Thanks. Boy, with Fidelity.
Okay, timer's on. I'll be
Go.
under the 5. How many University of Arizona people in the room?
All right, you're done.
How many ASU people in the room? So my daughter came home early last night for Thanksgiving break. She's at the University of Arizona, and she's looking to transfer to ASU. So we're kind of conflicted in this whole thing. Trying to figure that one out. One of the trends that we are seeing is agents, developing an investment arm of their business. So whether it's you working with investors or you kind of entering the investor space yourself, we're seeing that in a really changing market. And how do you actually adapt and or leverage the disruptors, the iBuyers, et cetera? And so at Fidelity, we're really staying out in front of that whole trend. And in fact, we have a client that has a huge investment group fund behind them, has $2 billion with a B dollars that they are investing into the Phoenix and Vegas market. And they are buying and holding properties for rent. And they are, just this past week, part of that group upped their buy box to $750,000. So for a while, we've seen where, this is down only in the 300 range, it's in that lower market. There's people that are getting in the market that are putting raising that price cap. And so it's just something to think about. Okay, how do you actually leverage and not get, scared by what's happening, but leverage it to your advantage? So as an example, some of the things we're doing to help you find strategy in the investor world is we just launched what's called the Phoenix RIA, or the Real Estate Investor Association. Just launched last month. It's a monthly meeting, actually happens tonight in November, and it brings some of the biggest names of the Phoenix investor world into the same space. And it's at this Clayton House down in South Scottsdale. It's a monthly event that has a membership, but if you come with a Fidelity rep, we have the ability to bring you in for free the first time. So they really are value add. There's a networking for an hour at 5, and then it's a value add to just how do we invest insight, mastermind concepts into you. So people like Chris Iman, Doug Hopkins, Auction.com. These are some of the players that are at this meeting tonight. Alex Saenz if you've ever heard of this guy, is presenting. He's a 21-year-old business owner and entrepreneur who netted $2 million in wholesale income last year. 21-year-old.
Sounds like Sandy.
Yeah. Crazy. So he's going to be presenting tonight. If you're interested, let me know, Jen, Rob, any one of us can get you in. It's monthly, so if you're interested in the whole investor side of things, let us know. We're trying to help you be out there in the front of the investor space. We do have the class with Marty here right following, so if you need that ethics class, one of the harder ones to get, stay. At 10:30 we'll launch, and we have some lunch for you as well.
Who's the host for the event tonight? Who is the actual host? Who put that group together, the investment group? It is a Fidelity.
And Chris Hyman, in partnership with Chris Hyman. So yeah, it's really an incredible opportunity. If you're thinking investing yourself or investor clients, this is a place to be. This is a network place to be. Thanksgiving week, so I've got a famous Fidelity apple pie for somebody here. You can eat it yourself or you can pass it along to a client, your choice. My thought is, was anyone actually born on Thanksgiving Day? Was anyone actually born on Thanksgiving Day? All right, then who was the closest? Was it Thanksgiving Day you were born on?
My son was born on Thanksgiving.
Well, and it's yours today, so here you go. Apple pie.
You know, got to be thinking just 5 minutes ago. Remember Dell used to give away money for like just answering questions, but you haven't given money away for a while.
Oh,
How much money can we give away?
However, I do have money in my vehicle.
How much money can we give away today? All right.
Sandy, you're a part owner.
This is a $5 question. You have a mic.
Oh, $5? You just got cheap on you.
Wait, I'll get that. All right, fine. How much?
He said he had a couple hundred.
How about
Let me go grab some cabbage.
How about a 20?
Some cabbage, cake. Give me the first euphemism for money.
Cash.
No.
Moolah.
You don't count.
All right.
Okay, so here's the first question. How much is it worth?
That was $20 right here.
All right, $20. This is a hard one, though. What year was the celebration that is most commonly considered to be the first Thanksgiving?
Read that again.
What year of celebration is considered the most commonly considered the first Thanksgiving?
1921.
Hold on. 1868. What'd you say? Exactly.
$20.
Okay, hold on. All right, wait.
Didn't you all pay
All right.
attention in school?
Just first one that you gotta be quick. All right. Under what president did the first Thanksgiving become an annual holiday? You can't answer. You already won money.
Say again.
Under which president did Thanksgiving become an annual holiday?
Woodrow Wilson.
Nope. Wow.
Herndon, Harding.
All right, we'll come back to that one.
5.
Don't look it up. Don't.
Nope, that was done. We're not looking it back up. That one's done.
In what year was the first Macy's Day Thanksgiving Day Parade?
1942.
No.
1928.
No, I've already paid.
All right. No. All right, here's one. Ready? You should all get this. How does Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade conclude?
Santa.
It's Santa. Very good.
Who said that?
That was a $100 question.
This is a really hard one. I don't know if anybody.
Typical COO. I give him 100 and he gives it back.
I don't know if anybody will get
The guy watches the budget. This company is in great hands.
This is a hard one.
All right, so
What is the oldest?
only 20s.
What is the oldest Thanksgiving parade? What is the oldest Thanksgiving parade currently called? In other words, what was the original name of today's Thanksgiving Day parade?
Macy's Thanksgiving Parade.
Yeah, it's a hard one. You won't get this. It's 6 ABC Dunkin' Donuts Thanksgiving Day parade. All right.
Oh, I know it.
$20. Which president was the first to give a turkey a presidential pardon?
Oh, it was 1800s.
Kennedy.
No, it's way back. It's in the 1800s.
What is the question?
I read that just the other day. It's in the 1800s.
You and I are reading the different things.
Ford.
It was Obama.
Ford.
Woodrow Wilson.
Chevy.
Lincoln.
Oh, man.
Chevy Lincoln.
All right.
Nobody's gonna get that? Are you gonna tell everybody?
What state raises the most turkeys?
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Oh!
That's good for nothing. How are you ever going to use that again?
All right, wait.
You got 2 more questions. 2 more questions, and then we got to move on.
All right.
Your 5 minutes has been long.
I know, but we're having so much fun.
You should be a night host, like a nighttime.
All right, so the answer for the president who gave the first presidential pardon was
Wilson.
Ronald Reagan. And the other one that we couldn't answer was
1905.
the first Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade was 1924.
What's that last 3 years?
All right, Sam, you got another $40 up here, no?
How long did the first Thanksgiving celebration last?
3 days.
2 days.
3 days? Who said that?
Wow, look at Big Paul.
All right.
All right, one more.
That's it, all I got. What, one more? All right, hold on, wait, I got it. Who's the biggest turkey at Remax Fine Properties?
Sandy Corbin.
Everybody answered that.
I don't know. That's all I got. Listen, everybody have a great
All right, wait, does anybody else have a good trivia question that they know the answer to? Who won the game last night?
The Rams.
Rams, right here. Right, oh, you're not taking it. All right, who won the World Series? Red Sox, right there.
Who said it?
No, he said it. He said it. All right, hey, I'm going to talk about Zillow reviews real quick. All right. How important are reviews now? Crucial. All right, so Zillow, Google, and Yelp are the 3 that I would really focus on. Google, Yelp, and Zillow. All right, we got the secret sauce now for a Yelp. All right, it's weighted. So we always try to get a Yelp review from our sellers or buyers, and the reason why they never show up is usually our buyers or sellers are not frequently Yelp reviewers. So if somebody goes on and they're a first-time Yelp person and they review my services, Yelp will kick them out. But if they've been a Yelp reviewer for 8 years, Yelp will use them, right? So try to find your clients on what they're currently using to review services. And if you find somebody that's been a Yelp reviewer for a decade, when you sell or buy a house, have them review you. The other thing is they don't actually have to buy or sell with you, and they can still review you. So this is fascinating. When we ran a rounds team outing this weekend in the parking lot on Sunday, and we had our clients check in on Yelp to pick up a pie and then review us. Now, if you get 7 like in one day, they'll kick them out again, right? Because they know you're just trying to crowd the sector. So you got to do it over time. Too bad Jeff Barchie's not here, because Jeff Barchie has like 40 Yelp reviews. Who else has Yelp reviews in here? Yeah. So how?
I get a ton of leads off of Yelp, you guys.
Yeah.
People search best realtor in Scottsdale. My name comes up on a Yelp review that one of my first clients said she's the best realtor in Scottsdale.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, and so they were a Yelp user probably
Yeah. And
way back.
Any new Yelp user doesn't show up.
Yeah, so there you go. So find somebody that has been reviewing restaurants and that has been using Yelp, and if you find them as a buyer or seller, make sure they give you a review. Skip the Zillow review at that stage, right? Because they're probably not going to say, oh, I'm going to give you a Zillow, oh, I'm going to give you a Google, oh, I'm going to give you a Yelp, and it's like, dude, really? Like, stop, right? So you're going to have to be careful on what one of the 3 sectors. Yeah, Paul.
I was in a seminar a couple weeks ago, and I wrote it down, but I don't have it for memory. But has anybody used one of these apps or sites where you can ask your client to go to them, and then it blasts it out to everybody, like all the sites?
Every
Has anybody,
review site?
Oh.
Anybody heard of anything like that?
No, but I have not.
Okay.
All right, so hey, guys, come December 7th. It's going to be a hoot. Get a mask if you can bring one. Bring your date. Make sure you RSVP. The chow line is going to be open and wide. You don't have to wait until 7, and then we have that rush. It's going to be open immediately, so you can eat when you want. 6:30. So Greg wants to make sure you get a couple drinks in you. But it's going to be more of a free flow. So make sure you guys come. We're going to be giving away a ton of prizes.
Yes, we are.
How many dollars worth?
Close to $4,000.
$4,000 worth of stuff. We will have an R4 giveaway there that will be raffled also. So make sure you guys come.
All right, if you're staying, go get food.
Before a meeting, and I thought with it being Thanksgiving week, that it was going to be really, I envisioned 10 people here today. Because you know how many people are traveling, how many people, got things going on with Thanksgiving. So anyway, thanks for coming, because as you know, the fourth quarter sets up the first quarter. Finale, tell me what you told me the other day, because it was good. Something about
2019 starts October 1st, 2018.
Wait, this is really good, guys. All right, listen up. Because as you guys, Frank used to own like 4 franchises in Colorado Springs. So here, hey, listen. We started. All right, maybe not. Tough to control you guys. All right, Frank, stand up. Nice and loud. Something about November.
Now we always just tell everybody the first quarter of 2019 starts October 1st of 2018.
So what you're doing now is going to affect your first quarter. So you got to go. I mean, you got to keep your eye on the ball. So even though it's a great time to be festive and everything, concentrate on. Yeah, so to keep coming. All right. So birthday Friday will be November 30th at the main building. Don't forget. Who's got plans December 7th? Right. Come to the holiday party. It's a +1. It's going to be a festive event. Where's Emily? Is Emily here today? Emily's in Vegas. Anything you want to tell them about the holiday party? All right, I got something about. Hey, did we decide that we're going to open up the buffets earlier? That's official. Oh, yes.
Mask.
Thank you. Bring a mask. So it's a masquerade, right? So you can, you don't have to wear it all night, but you can, have fun. I've seen it with horns and all kinds of stuff, right? There's a CE class right after this at 10:30. Even though you didn't sign up, there's room. It's on, what's the class on?
NAR Code of Ethics.
Hey, listen, if you haven't taken the NAR Code of Ethics, this may be your last chance. And if you don't have it by the end of the year, you can't do real estate January 1st. So this is really,
Emily, you want to make sure that I don't need code ethics. Texturing real quick. I'm good.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yes. Listen, guys, this is really important. Don't tell me that you have your certificate. It doesn't make a difference to RE/MAX. You need to go to your local association, whether it's SAR or NAR or SEVRA, whoever you belong to. When you get your completion certificate, you got to send it to your local association that you belong to. If you're on their list that you don't have it, I'm going to get this thing come January 1st. You got to take it, right? Don't get confused. There's two Code of Ethics classes. One is the normal one that we take every 2 years to get our license. That is not the official NAR one. It's got to be the NAR Code of Ethics class. It's really important. If you're confused, just call me. Every year, there's a few of us that just fail to do it.
No, and it's amazing, guys. I've gotten emails that said, dude, I didn't know my license was going to expire. And I'm like, okay. Well, how was I supposed to know your license expired? Well, you guys should remind it. And I'm like, we don't.
Actually, we do.
Oh.
On your invoices, on the invoices that you receive on the 15th, at the very top of the page it says, renew your license soon.
Is that new?
No.
Well, you always say that. That's just a generic statement.
It gives you 90 days out. 90 days.
Yeah, guys, you need to track that yourselves. I mean, we're here to really help you, but you gotta be in compliance on your own ball game. So everybody now should be checking their license to see if they need that code of ethics. All right. Jeff Fisher is doing a blanket drive for Maricopa County Humane Society. Humane Society, sorry, Human Society. Humane Society. Christina Espinoza is doing a toy drive for the Center of Cancer and Blood Disorders. Those are both going to be, I believe, in the lobby. They are. So we're going to do everything we can to support your charities this holiday season. If you want more information about drives, reach out to Jeff or Christine. Or me. Or Greg. Thank you, Greg. And then we got 2 awards to present. So we want to kick that off right from the get-go, right? Sandy,
Yes.
you're up.
Okay, so RE/MAX has 4 different level of individual achievement awards, right? So the first one is when you reach the Hall of Fame, and Hall of Fame is when you've earned $1 million or more in gross commissions. There's no time limit of what your service to RE/MAX is. The second one is when you reach $3 million of gross commissions. That becomes the, what's the second one? What is it? Lifetime Achievement Award. Third one is a biggie. Not too many people achieve this one. It's when you've earned $10 million, at least 10 years with RE/MAX. That is the Circle of Legends. And then, of course, there's the ultimate, which is when you reach $20 million in sales and 20 years of service to RE/MAX, you get the Illuminary Award. Today, we have 2. We have 2 recipients. The first one is Marianne Petridis. Come on up. Little brother didn't want to do this, so I'm doing it. Marianne took not a long time to reach the Hall of Fame award. So there's a letter, there's a certificate, there's a pin, and more importantly, hopefully there's money in your bank.
There's not.
Congratulations.
See, that's where the mean part starts. I knew it was coming. Congratulations, Mary. Thank you. All right, then we have the second award. So this is the award for Circle of Legends. So this is a big deal. This comes with a lamp. Have you received it yet?
It's right here.
No.
It's right here.
Oh, it is. Bring it over. Oh my gosh. I didn't even see it. I thought it was a lamp.
Ryan, you need to carry this.
So guys, this I did.
It's a disco ball.
All right, now I want you guys a disco ball. So I want you guys just think about this for a second. This is first of all 10 years. So that's the first hump. 10 years in the business, which isn't even the major hump. Then it's 10 million in gross commission income. It has to be a combination of the two. So let's say you're a hedge fund guy and you broker a $3 billion building. That would give you 10 million, but then you don't have the tenure, right? Yep. So this is a combination of 10 years and 10 million. Christy Ryan. Congratulations. Photo. Here, let's get a photo of you guys. If you can hold
Very anti.
This is really heavy. We have the whole box.
By the way,
You were early today.
we have we officially have three.
Del, if you want to be in it, I'll take a picture of all of you.
Yeah, let me get one here though. Okay. Yep. Real quick. Congratulations. That's a big deal.
Very excited.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you want to speak? Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
A few short ones.
Yeah.
So when I first started, I was about to join Russ Lyon, and I was like 1 hour away from joining them. And then I read it to Karen Groveman in the grocery store, and she goes, I go, oh, I just got my real estate license. I'm joining Russ Lyon in an hour. And she goes, oh, don't do that. Don't be stupid. You don't want to give away 50% of your commission to them. That's absurd. You come over here and you talk to Dave Mesner, who owned it at the time. And so Karen dragged me over to RE/MAX Fine Properties, and I said to him, look, I don't know anything about real estate. He said, you'll learn, don't worry, just sign up. So that was it. Called Russ Lyon and said, sorry, I'm not coming. And at the same, like the week before, I had asked realty execs if they would take me or interview me. And they said, no, we don't want you. You don't have any experience, blah, blah, blah. And then 10 years later, they called me and said, do you want to come over? I said, oh yeah, no, I don't want
Just one more acknowledgement. One more acknowledgement. Today is my friend and yours, Heidi's birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Heidi. Happy birthday to you.
All right, we have 3 new agents. Is Bonnie Baker, Holly Neverett, and then Robin. Did we ever introduce you? We did? Okay. All right. Welcome, Robin.
Welcome back, Robin.
I wasn't here. You were here.
Yeah. Okay, so today we always try to bring in new homes builders. That way you get an idea of what's out there, what you can do for your clients. So today we have KB Homes with Patricia Woodward. And she and KB Homes actually donated all the food in the back for you today. So they're the one that sponsored the food. So, Patricia, you guys are up.
Yes, we are. First off, I think I passed out most of these. If you did not get one, I will leave it for you here, if that's okay. So super excited to be here. I brought Dawn along with me. We have a brand new community that's opening in Gold Canyon. It's called Peralta Canyon. So 4 floor plans, all single stories, 1476 square feet up to 1994, and I'm going to be in the low 200s. Good opportunity, we thought, to come out and talk to you because it is the winter visitors are coming into town, so it's a great opportunity. How many of you been to a KB Home community? Yay, we love all of you. So nice. Also wanted to share with you. Talk about this one? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. You want to talk about it? Okay.
So a couple things we're going to be offering. I'm Dawn Roland. I've met some of you before. I was here back in June for one of your meetings. We have a community over in North Phoenix, Rancho Paloma at Cave Creek and Rancho Paloma. Single level and 2-story, they are villas. We have currently 7 quick move-ins that we are paying a full 3% commission on, of course, and we're offering you anything sold between now and the end of December will be a $1,000 bonus on top of that, and that is for both quick move-in and new build. So anything that you sell in between then, you'll get that extra $1,000. And if you are doing a new build, like what Patricia has, just know that KB Home always pays 3% on the final purchase price, even though it is a new build. Most of your new build companies will only pay on the base price. So that's a good opportunity to make some, more money on new builds and some quick cash for the holidays.
Right. And what's really important too is sometimes we know your clients will get away from you and come into a new home community without you. Please just pick up the phone and call us and let us know. We have a 48-hour policy that we can go ahead and register you in and protect you.
And we do
48
have
hours before or after?
After.
Okay.
So we do have a lot of people that even will come into the community, you don't know they're coming in, so you can't call us ahead. We always ask anyone that walks in the door, are you working with a real estate agent? And if the answer is yes, we said that's not a problem. Please put their name and phone number down. As soon as they walk out the door, we're picking up the phone to call you guys to let you know. And we also offer, if you're not able to make it in within the 48 hours, we will DocuSign you the registration.
Gosh, we love you already.
I know, so, we just really want to support you guys and in turn support us. We value the business that you bring through the door with us.
I have a question.
Sure.
Community in Gold Canyon.
Yes.
Can you do those as Airbnbs, or is that a CC&O regulation, no Airbnbs in the community?
I have not seen that. I would have to get back with you on it. We are just now waiting on our public report, so I am currently doing letters of interest. I can tell you my home sites are amazing. They are around 8,000 square feet, so they're pool-sized lots, all view fencing. I have several of them that are 10,000 or 11,000 square foot, good pie shapes. But I am against a wash, a good portion of them. So we sit a little bit higher, we have view fencing, and you have unobstructed views. So definitely worth the drive to come out and take a look at it.
Well, and I will speak to that. I'm not for sure about Gold Canyon because it is new, but I have been with KB Home for almost 9 years. All of the communities I've been in, the CC&Rs are typically written where it's a 30-day minimum.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
All right, anything
Okay,
else?
no.
All right, well,
Thank you so much, you guys.
Appreciate it.
We're gonna leave a goodie bag here.
So keep in mind also, Patrick has Encore down at Camelback and 24th Street that starts in the 4s-ish.
On Q.
On Q.
24th and Campbell.
On Q, 24th and Campbell. And then also Davis Driver, where's Davis? Davis, you have Windmill, right? In the 1.5 range up north.
No, 2,450.
2,450,000.
Big difference.
Just paid $1 million. So I hear 3. Right, and you have ready move-in homes, and you have a model.
Spectacular, beautiful homes. It's not very home spec because they were built to private party standards. There's one furnished, not available furnished, but they're gorgeous. Come see them. We've got 8 homes. Bob Bacon designed them. They're very special. Somebody wants brand new, high design, an acre and a half.
Right.
And there's room on most of the lots, on all of them, for an extra facility, perhaps up to 3,600 square feet for a car barn, woodworking shop, artist studio, what have you.
All right, wonderful.
Really
Anybody else has a new home complex in the room? Did I miss anybody? Okay, great.
Has anybody, don't be shy, raise your hand, over the years, how many have called me because they either think they had a procuring cause issue, they have a procuring cause issue, they have an ethics violation, somebody did something unethical? Raise your hand, everybody, come on. Come on, everybody's got to raise it. Everybody's asked me over the years, right? Okay. Today's guest speaker is Carol Ridley. And I will tell you, for those that have been through an arbitration or mediation, or I've been with you through the process, Carol is the administrator for Arizona Association of Realtors. She's really our advocate for this whole process. And without Carol's guidance from me, we wouldn't have gotten through the arbitrations and mediations. It's really a spectacular program. And Carol's going to talk a little bit more about the process. Carol's not going to get into, is it a procuring cause issue or is this an ethics violation? That's really not her area as much as guiding the process and educating us when we go through the process. Keep in mind 2 things. ADRE is different from AAR, right? So when Commissioner Lowe spoke to us last week, they're governed by statute that if they get a consumer complaint, because they're a consumer advocate, if ADRE gets a consumer complaint, they must investigate that. They have to. AAR is our association. It's a much better process when we get a complaint or an issue or a violation of some sort when it stays within our association, because it's our peers that we go before, whether we mediate or arbitrate. And it's a much simpler process, it's a much easier process. I think it's a much more fair process because it's within our association, especially with the Code of Ethics, where ADRE, they're not here today. They're not our friend. They're a consumer advocates. They are not a real estate advocate. As much as they're a great program for us, but they're AAR is our friend. So, here today, Carol Ridley is to talk to us about the mediation arbitration process. So, thank you, Carol.
Thanks for having me, Sandy. I just want to ask, is anyone here a member of SEPRAR as their primary association? Things are a little bit different, but everything is basically the same. So arbitration is a commission dispute. It's not just procuring cause. Sometimes it's a referral fee issue, but predominantly it's procuring cause. So one of the things we have is mediation of a business dispute. Mediation is our preferred method to resolve a dispute, as well as NAR. The reason being, in mediation, parties determine the outcome. And there's 2 ways to go through mediation when there's a commission dispute. It's voluntary. That means it's the first method you try to resolve the dispute. There's no filing fee, there's no request to arbitrate, and there's limited policies and procedures. One of the best things is a mediator is a neutral person who tries to help everyone have a discussion as to why they're in this position and how can you resolve it. It's not about finding fault. As you may find out one day in a transaction, procuring cause is rarely 2 agents doing something intentionally to hurt one another. It's usually a savvy buyer who knows how to work the system. And then we have mandatory arbitration. That means somebody's filed the formal request to arbitrate, which then has a lot of policies and procedures that must follow. So if the request is filed, it has to go through our grievance committee, and if they say forward it, we have to go forward with our mediation first. And the only way we can bypass that and go directly to a hearing is if both parties agree to be released from the mediation. I also want to mention